Welcome to Inclusion Matters, produced by the Center for Inclusive Childcare,
aka the CICC.
We're located at inclusivechildcare.org.
Welcome to Inclusion Matters, a podcast of the Center for Inclusive Childcare. I'm Cindy Croft, Director of the Center, and I'm here today with Priscilla Weigel.
Hello.
Hi, Priscilla. And we have a guest with us today, and I'm going to let Priscilla introduce her.
Oh, great. Well, I'm pleased to introduce you to one of our inclusion coaches, Colleen Dockendorf, and she has worked for many years in the field and just helping children, a lot of children that have really maybe experienced a lot of things in their lives that are tough to handle. And so her background and her is more of in that therapeutic kind of looking at children in a supportive way and helping providers use their language to calm the situation and to help kids be redirected and supported, and also help through that language help kids to kind of have their feelings validated and understood a little bit more. And she's going to talk with us today.
Great.
We're going to talk together about therapeutic language. Welcome, Colleen.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. So today we're really looking at the whole concept, the idea of therapeutic language, which some people may not know what that means. So do you want to tell us a little background?
Sure. Therapeutic language sets the tone to an environment. So in using language and words, it helps a child clarify, connect their thoughts with their feelings, and it's an intentional move. It's what providers, parents, teachers can do to help a child better understand that need for emotional regulation.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you say therapeutic language,
Yeah.
does somebody doesn't have to be a therapist then to use therapeutic language?
No, you know what? Therapeutic language is an intentional use of your language. It's not a threat. It's not a consequence. It's not a reward system. It's more about meeting that child where they're at. Mm-hmm. What's going on? What can I do to help you soothe, regulate, and gather those skills that you need to communicate, mm-hmm. to be successful in the classroom, to be comfortable in a play situation. So it's language that is more of a thought-out, purposeful way of speaking to children.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, initially, it may be a little daunting because you think, okay, I have to use therapeutic language. And
Totally.
I have to think about what I'm saying.
Right.
But truly, I think for folks who have worked with children for a long time, sometimes they're maybe even using it and they don't realize it.
And I think that's the thing. Some of it comes naturally if that's kind of the way you speak and the way you use your language. But more so, it is knowing the child that you're caring for, mm-hmm. knowing what their triggers are, what their strengths are, what their challenges are, and that's where you get to kind of just use your voice, use your tone, use your body language to help that child feel that they're getting a need met.
Mm-hmm.
It also, I think, really helps children understand my feelings aren't too big.
Yeah.
And if my caregiver can contain this with me, I won't derail her or him. They won't run. It won't affect our relationship because there's that need for connection. There's that need for calming. There's that need for regulating. And that is what helps a child get to that next place.
Right. And I think that that's so important to remember, that our goal is to come alongside that child and remind them that we're here to keep them safe.
Right.
And our bodies can show that, but as you're saying, there's such an important role that our words can play.
Right.
In that, and just thinking it through.
Right.
Planning. So what are some of kind of the, so we've talked a little bit about kind of the definition, and what about some of the other benefits when you think of the folks that you're working with maybe in our coaching situations, that you're out in the community?
Right.
Seeing a place maybe in your mind, and of course you don't have to use names or anything, but just when that therapeutic language maybe wasn't evident, and then how you helped those folks understand it.
I feel like there's, this sense of needing to control behavior, mm-hmm. or to control a situation. Okay. And when you're responsible for a classroom, that does hit your radar, like, I got to get this under control, Mm-hmm. But in the long run, if you can know where you're at in that, how do I feel about this situation? How comfortable am I with behavior? How comfortable am I with this in child? Kind of know where you're at. Then what this therapeutic language can do, and what this really joining, I like to call it joining, is solely to benefit the child. It isn't about, if I do this, she can do this. Or it's not about setting up a goal chart or a reward system or drop the big threat. It's more about what can I do to solely benefit this child to promote cooperation, to promote calmness, to promote just this ability to take care of themselves. So in a classroom setting, I feel like when all of a sudden you're like, okay, I better get this under control, stop, hold your breath, think for a moment, don't act, you know what I mean? Allow yourself to wonder, what's this about? And just that, I believe, just that wonderment allows you to regulate enough to go, is this because it's Monday? Is this because it's been a late night last night? Is this because I have 14 kids in the classroom today instead of 11? You know what I mean? It could be a numbers game, whatever the case may be. I feel like that's the kind of joining that you stop and wonder allows you to give a better understanding to what this child might, look through their lens to go, whoa, okay, this is how I can meet the child where they're at. This is how I can remember that I know he's 4, but right now this behavior, it's regressing. He's at about a 3-year-old right now. I need to meet him where he's at to allow him or her to get to where we're asking them or where he's needing, And in taking that into consideration, I mean, temperament, family changes that have happened. Right. Is there neurological something's going on? All that stuff is part of the wonderment, but it all the same. We don't have to be therapists or, rock stars in this department as much as like, if I can use words to meet that child, to help them soothe, regulate, and move forward, that is a powerful thing. And I feel like in the classroom, we do need outside resources. Absolutely. Sure. You know what I mean? We do need to look to the next place. But we're still with those kids from 8 to 10 hours a day. Right. Whether it's the classroom or in a child care setting, you're really the child's tool.
Yes, you are.
You're the person that can help some of those skills. And I think that's vital.
And the tone, even just in our conversation here, the tone that we set by just, as you said, stopping and wondering, and then that calm discussion with the child. I mean, just, you can feel the burden kind of lift from them. And reminding folks out there listening that every time we hand off a child to someone else because we can't handle it, that creates more anxiousness for that child. So coming in and joining that word that you're using is truly, it's not saying I'm going to give up on you.
Right.
I believe we can figure this out together. And what a gift for a child to have that sense that this grown-up who is in charge of keeping me safe will do their job.
Right. And when we think about using therapeutic language, we get to stay away from if you don't, or you better, or I think we should call your mom, kind of things, because we're going to figure this out. You know what I mean? And that's safe.
That's a safe thing.
And that builds trust. And that builds this ability to attach to other people in my world that I can count on. And that's pretty important.
That is.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing to be able to do that. And I think that sometimes, too, just looking at that regulation piece for kids and those big emotions that you talked about, that their emotions. One thing that I think we hear sometimes is maybe, that's such an angry child. That child's so angry. And I think sometimes they're using the angry because maybe that's what they've seen, and they think, okay, when I feel this way, I'm supposed to act this way. But they don't connect. And so helping them understand those big emotions through that therapeutic language.
And I feel like in doing that, you kind of put a gauge on things. You can use your hands. You can use a chart. You can use a visual. You can use all those things that make it a little less personal. Because also, if you're a highly dysregulated little child, or things have gotten just too big for you to manage, that's also when you get defensive. It's also when you're on a protective mode. And so when we use are you this big mad, or are you just this big mad? Let's gauge it a little bit. You feel a child that is already dysregulated is also very vulnerable. So I feel like that usage of us and doing that, sometimes words don't work well because they are way too high and too big, and it's too much. And just your presence, just your ability to be present. Stay close, hum, sing a little song, rock back and forth, breathe. That is still, you're not walking away. You're still present enough that the words will come back. But right now, this is a sensitive situation. And also, too, for those kids that have that challenging piece in them, they are on high alert and very sensitive. They are catching you. Take a deep big sigh, or they are catching you roll your eyes.
Right.
And that is like,
Yeah.
you went 4 steps backwards doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're like, oh, we're trying to make some leeway. And if your body is tense or frustrated or there, we have to always be aware where we're at when dealing with emotions, when dealing with feelings, So
For young children, that's their whole world.
right, and I feel like that's when we're speaking to the body.
Yeah.
And then in saying that, I feel like when words don't really work, but say little somebody just hit the floor, they're tantruming, they're kicking, they're yelling, and our words aren't going to integrate right at that point.
Right.
But what you can do is speak to the body, like, when you are on the floor kicking, I wonder if you're mad. Sometimes kids kick when they are very mad. Even that kind of stuff, little light bulbs go off, and they're like, she thinks I'm mad, and I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and she gets that.
She's understanding something that I cannot, put into words.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm just falling on the floor. That's all I can do.
All I can do right now. So when you speak to the body, that's another way to go, that was regulating, that was therapeutic, that was helpful. She cares. Or he can help me.
Yeah.
This is great. This has been a wonderful discussion around therapeutic language. I think we want to do a second podcast for those who are listening, and maybe get a little more specific into and talk about some
Putting it into practice.
Exactly, because I'm sure people who are listening right now are thinking, all right, I sort of understand.
Yeah.
With the concept of therapeutic language, maybe I'm thinking about the times that I use the words, the positive words, and helping children understand emotional literacy or words for feelings. But maybe if I had some concrete examples and ways to diffuse situations or to be proactive. So in our next podcast, let's give people, now we've given them some foundation, let's give our listeners some examples they could work from. How does that sound?
All right, sure.
Thank you both very much for being here.
You bet.
That's all for now. See